Yo, what is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the greatest combat sports and culture show in the entire universe, the Fight Podcast. I'm your host, Serg Vicente. This is episode 286 of the show, and joining me today, come on, man, we know what time it is. It's Wednesday. We had Canelo fight last week. You got dudes talking about, who's the best heavyweight. We got fights being announced, though. We got all this boxing to talk about. You know who I got to bring on. I got to bring on my brother from another. He's sitting right over here, the guru, B-Cam. Bruh, what it do, man? Welcome to the show.
Yes, sir. You must be saying that in your sleep by now. You got that shit down pat, but happy to be back, man. It's been a few weeks. Canelo fought. Got a lot to talk about. Man, I'm just excited to be here. Thank you for having me. We're going to get to it.
Of course, man. Of course, bro. That's how we get done. It's going to be a good time, man. And wait, let's get you over here. Here it is. Yeah. Well, let's kick it off, man, because you know what we got to talk about. I mean, look, there's so much to talk about. Let's just go ahead and jump into it.
Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here.
Man, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. First of all, the fact that Canelo just started speaking English is fantastic. I'm happy. But I'm so happy that the first thing he learned, like most people's first, when they finally learn a language, he obviously learned how to cuss. I heard him call somebody this past weekend a pussy. I heard him call somebody, told him to go fuck off. I told him to get the fuck out of here. Like, yo. First of all, Canelo is hilarious on the mic now.
He's great. I saw him do an interview a couple weeks ago. I didn't know the guy he did an interview with, but it was on YouTube in a bunch of different pieces. And at this point in his career, he's showing so much more personality. He's spoken English for a while, but he was very much. I think Chavez Sr. did the same thing, where he was just about that Mexican life and didn't want to do interviews in English. Canelo, I think, was on that for a while too, but when he split from Oscar, something changed. He started showing his personality more, and it's affecting the way people look at him. Like, I love it. People love it in general. You have clips of him not fighting going viral on the internet. This is what you want from your pound for pound number one fighter in the world, and I think he's doing it.
Yeah, I think he's doing great, man. Well, he goes out there. Like I said, let's see. He's walking the walk, talking the talk. Dude goes out there in a fucking Dolce Gabbana, trunks and suit and everything. So my man's just been feeling himself. He goes out there, TKOs Billy Joe Saunders after 8 rounds. Man, ends up breaking his face essentially. I always say he's going to knock his face. Yes, 3 different pieces. 8th round, it was about a minute and a half left of the round, so about halfway through the round, he ends up catching Billy Joe with a nasty uppercut, cracking his joint in, like I said, 4 pieces, and it was pretty much all she wrote at that point. B, what were your thoughts watching the fight? In fact, before we even get to the knockout itself, leading up to that round, how were you feeling about the fight? Because it was competitive.
Yes, it was competitive, but I wouldn't say I'm of the same mindset of some of the other people, and I'm a huge fan.
I think we might be on the same page. I think I know where you're coming from.
I'm a huge fan of Chris Mannix. I just didn't see the fight that way. I think watching the fight, I had it 5-3. Upon rewatch, I think I could have scored it 6-2. A discrepancy that I'm coming up with is that I seem to be the lone individual that scored the first round for Canelo. And
I scored the first round for Canelo also.
Thanks. I'm not alone. I'm not alone. That's what I come here for.
You know what I'm saying? I got you.
But yeah, I was watching, and I've watched the fight around 3 times now. In the first round, Billy Joe landed some shots on the gloves. Canelo landed legitimate body shots, a couple shots to the head. I just don't know how you score that first round for Billy Joe Saunders. I scored the first 3 for Canelo. Mm-hmm. The initial watch, this is what differed on the first watch and my second watch. Okay. I scored that 4th round for Billy Joe on the first watch. I thought I maybe could have swayed it to Canelo on the second watch. Then the 5th, I think, was definitely Billy Joe. I scored the 6th for Canelo, the 7th for Billy Joe, and then we know what happened in the 8th round.
I can't be mad at that. I can't be mad at that. Our scorecards were very similar. But watching the fight, because I think a lot of people, especially, first of all, I have no clue what Chris Mannix was watching. Like, I don't understand. I think he was trying to be a contrarian or some shit, but that was a terrible, terrible scorecard, and unfortunately, it makes him look ass this week. But I mean, he's a pilot. That's what he does. He does his thing. I think he still thinks he's one of the best in the game. It is what it is. People are just talking shit about him, but it's not a big thing.
When you're in the media, shit, we're in the media to a certain extent. You're gonna take L's. It is what it is. Like,
oh yeah, but that's a bad one to take. I'll just say that.
Don't take your L in a Canelo fight.
Exactly. It's you know what I'm saying, but it was a good fight watching it. I think Billy Joe. I gave Billy Joe 4 and 5. I think he went out there. I thought he did look good in those rounds. Hard press 7 was the other one it was close. I still leaned towards Canelo in that round. And then in the 8th round, you kind of saw Canelo say, all right, I'm kind of done with the bullshit. And you saw the wave starting to come on. And especially when Canelo noticed, noticed right away that something was wrong with Billy Joe. Like right as soon as he made contact, you saw him kind of look like, ooh, I think I did something. And once that happened, dude, he starts cheering on the crowd. It was amazing.
If you were watching the fight, you could see it. Like,
yeah,
I
automatically you saw it swell up.
I didn't say it out loud, but in real time, I was like, did he just break his orbital bone? Because you could see his face sort of slump and sink into his face. I was like, what the fuck just happened? And as soon as it looked like live, it just looked like a kind of a shadow under his eye, almost like it was swelling up. But his whole face was sunken in. And Canelo landed that shot, and it just became, he went from Canelo to some type of inevitable force that was all over Billy Joe Saunders.
Oh, dude. I mean, you hit it on the head. He did all of a sudden become that just force. And it wasn't even about a momentum shift at this point anymore. It was just his wave coming on, and there was nothing Billy Joe can do about it. So let me ask you this. I don't feel this way, and I'll lead by saying this. I don't feel this way. I think the stoppage was warranted, and I'm not mad at Billy Joe. People say he quit, especially because some of the comments that he made to Daniel Dubois earlier or last year. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, for one, he just shouldn't have made those comments. And I mean, he's going to have to eat his words, and any backlash that he gets from those comments, he fully deserves, because he made those comments. I mean, we're in an internet era, everything, screenshots, receipts, we have those. Now, my opinion is that to an extent, I think he went out on his shield. You should not be, we talk about fighters' health and health issues, and we see fighters dying in the ring. There should be no way that a doctor is allowing a fighter to fight, given that he's at risk for losing his eyesight forever. Like, so when that bone breaks, you no longer have protection. You lose feeling in parts of your face. You literally just don't have protection. And we're talking about, you weren't winning the fight when you had 2 eyes. So what do we expect from you now that you only have 1 eye? And like I mentioned, you could see it on his face. So why would a doctor let that fight continue? Now, it was the trainer that ended up stopped the fight, and I think he did a great job, because
I think he did a fantastic job also.
I don't want to see any more of that, but that should be the doctor should step in and say, hey, we need to stop this fight, because fighters should not be allowed to fight at that point. Now, we've seen amazing things before. I think Billy Joe Saunders probably had the worst type of bone break that the worst type of fracture. I think it's called a quadrupod fracture. So I believe there's 3 places in which the bone is attached to the rest of your skull. That I believe you break all 3 of those places, and then the 4th break is like the full bone. The bone is essentially fell out of his skull. And so, however, a couple years ago, not too long ago, there was a fight, if you remember, Nonito Donaire, and our guy anyway. I think in a way he might have broken his face a little bit earlier in their fight. I don't know if I don't know the severity of it, but he went through the whole fight and got the victory. So when you're looking at it at the full picture, you say, okay, well, why can this guy do this? Why can that guy not do this? What's warranted? Is he a quitter? I mean, you could come from a lot of different angles, but like, nigga, I ain't trying to get my sight up. So I am with Billy Joe Saunders. However, he made those comments. You gotta lay in that bed.
And that's the problem with it, right? It's the fact that he got there and was real spicy in the comments. He shit on Daniel Dubois, and salute to Daniel Dubois, by the way, that went out there and could have absolutely shit on Billy Joe Saunders afterwards in a tweet or say whatever. But he really just said, you fought in a great fight. Get well soon. Hope to see you back in there. It was perfect. He comes off looking like the British gentleman that he is.
You can't, he couldn't really say much, because, nigga, you quit too. Y'all both in the loser's corner. What are you gonna say? Hey,
I mean, but here's the thing. But no. Here's the thing, though. I appreciate him saying it because again, he didn't quit. It's not about quitting. You have a broken face, and you shouldn't be able to continue, and that's okay. And that's the thing. We over here so like bloodthirsty as fans and shit that we want to see these dudes, just like, I mean, we don't want to see we want to see Billy Joe come back. I think Billy Joe is a fantastic character in boxing, and I want to see him back. And now we literally have a case where we don't know. We generally don't know if he'll end up being back. So these are those things that, I mean, injuries are serious. They happen. And when they happen, people just got to respect it. Like, he didn't quit. It's not like, buddy, that one fight where, what's the big young heavyweight that you like? The African kid.
F.A. Jaga?
Yeah, and he had that one dude that he walks in the ring and FS steps up and he just walked out because it was a contract dispute. But see, that's quitting in the ring. I'm done. I don't want to do this. Like, this isn't for me.
I think that was something different.
It was something different, but still, he quit. Right? Like, that's a legitimate quit. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. And we've seen other fights where guys have like...
Quitting, we are talking about Regis Prograis and Ivan Redcatch. That's quitting.
Thank you. Dude, I couldn't pick that. That's the one. That right there is the one. Ivan Redcatch quit. He quit. That is straight up, period, point blank, he quit. All right? What dude did, that's not quitting. That's not throwing. That's just, you got me. You got me. It's like if it was an MMA and somebody gets submitted and their arm breaks. Can't fight anymore. Your shin breaks. Can't fight anymore. The other guy won. Good for you. Hat off to you. You got me.
Hey, look. For all his troubles and all the health issues that he may endure from here on out, I heard surgery has gone well. He got $1 million per round.
That sounds great.
Made a smooth $8 million payday. So, I mean, he's taken care of for life if nothing else. That matters to me because it be fighters out here that have them type of injuries in fucking Mexico fighting cab drivers, and we never heard of them. And they can't work,
Dude,
they can't fight.
I still don't know about 60 people that Julio Cesar Chavez beat. I still to this day don't know.
We don't know who Canelo's first 40 fights were against.
I have no clue who Canelo's first 40 fights were against. But here, let me ask you this, because you and I have discussed this. And what makes Canelo great? And this is one thing, because now he's going out there, he's cleaned out the weight class. He's essentially trying to clean out 168, which is a pretty damn deep weight class. He's collecting all the belts, and now he's going after Caleb Plant. Caleb Plant is a guy that both of us are very high on, but none of us are going to say that we believe Caleb. We think he's going to make it a tough fight. I'm not saying he's going to win, though. Let me ask you this. After watching what we saw with Billy Joe Saunders, what makes Canelo so special? And we see our brother from another Darnell, from Mr. Black Ass called his power. Is it just his power? What is it about Canelo, in your opinion, that makes him so great?
Hold on, what Mr. got to say? He said, "How do you throw that many power shots through that many rounds?" I don't think Canelo threw like a ridiculous amount of power shots. Did I miss something?
It's because he's on the Mexican supplements, possibly. Is that what we're insinuating?
I damn sure will not
I'm not saying that.
And I heard Canelo talk about that recently. And I mean, you never know what to believe, but I mean, he did it once. They changed the rules because of situations that happen that are common in Mexico. And so, I mean, even if he tested for that now, that's all whatever. But in terms of what separates what makes Canelo good? Canelo, I think he's a fighter where the whole is, the whole is better than the sum of its parts, or the sum of its parts is better.
Something like that. I know what you're talking about. I see you going with that.
Yeah, well, because I mean, he just brings everything together so well. So he brings together head movement. Which is a part of defense, but also he has a pressure style. He has maybe he's a little bit flat-footed. However, he has good enough footwork to figure out how to close the distance against bigger fighters. He does great work to the body. He has power. He doesn't have Deontay Wilder power, but he'll get you out of there.
Yeah, but who does?
Definitely. And so he does great work to the body. He's a great body puncher. I mean, it is just IQ in general.
There's nothing he doesn't do bad. It's just, that's really what it boils down to. He's so. What fighter have you seen is more fun? He's so fundamentally sound.
Who is more
Loma, maybe Lomachenko when you really think about the technique. But you talk about, but even Loma, I mean, Canelo never has his hands in the wrong space. He's, like you said, defensively responsible at all times, bro. It's so beautiful to watch, and it's really cool because we've been able to really watch him grow, right? He's been around for such a long time at this point, but we've seen him develop, and now he's really hitting his stride where, dude, he's like far and away my favorite fighter to watch and closing in on one of my favorite fighters of all time. It's just he's that fun to watch.
Not only that, but it's rare in this sport that we get to see fighters at this level continue to improve. And there was something that happened probably after the Mayweather fight and definitely after that first Triple G fight. Canelo just continues to get better. He's a gym rat. Everyone around him is getting better. He's building something special. He is something special, and you can see that. A fighter in his prime, looking to fight 4 times in a year, become undisputed in a single year. Canelo's that guy right now, and it's his mind, his love for the sport, the fact that he's not doing it for money. All of these things are what makes him great. It's just not one thing. It's not in the ring. It's not just out of the ring. But the whole is better than the sum of its parts. I think that's it.
I think that's it. I think you got it. Well, let me ask you this: in your opinion, it seems like Caleb Plant is going to be the one that's next. Caleb Plant is the IBF champion at 68. He wants to fight. He's a legitimate champion. So anybody saying he's just some bum, you're wrong. Dude is an absolute beast. But how, in your opinion,
what
does
are we saying is legitimate?
Well, let me ask you this: how do you think? Because you can answer within this question. How do you think he actually lines up or matches up against Canelo?
Well, Canelo has another difficult fight ahead of him. Whereas I think Billy Joe would have presented more of a challenge to Canelo just because I've seen more of Billy Joe. Caleb Plant, while he has all the talent in the world, we just haven't seen it yet because he hasn't been in some of those bigger fights. And of the fights that he has been in, my biggest issue with him is that I think he tires late and he starts to get hit late by punches that he wouldn't normally get hit by. And that will not work against Canelo. And that leads me to my theory about Caleb Plant, that I think he's takes the sport so seriously. We are not talking about Billy Joe Saunders. Billy Joe Saunders like fucks off outside of camp and then gets to camp and gets right.
Guy walks
Caleb
around
Plant
in shape.
Does not fuck around. He's never going to be more than 15 pounds for fight weight. He's constantly training, but it's almost like an overtraining thing because it doesn't always convert to the ring. He has brittle hands, so that pops up. That may pop up as an issue sometimes. Now, what he does well, he's a mover. I don't think he throws combinations as well as Billy Joe Saunders, but I think he has more power and more speed than Billy Joe Saunders, and probably overall better footwork.
He's a better fighter. I think he's an overall better. I think, just in my humble opinion, I personally, stylistically, and what I've seen from him, I think he's better in almost every, like, defensively. They're just different defensively, but I still think, man, he might be the best defensive fighter that I've seen in a long time. Caleb Plant defensively is so good. Head movement wise, feet, everything. Caleb Plant is great. And one thing that I think that he will end up, his athleticism and his lateral movement, Canelo does have issues from time to time with lateral movement. Caleb Plant tends to do exactly. And Caleb Plant does that well.
How long can he do that though? And that's where
that's
my
a point.
That's
a good point.
And I think we differ on this because you don't think he has stamina issues, but when I watch Caleb Plant on more than one occasion, I have seen him gas later in fights. I've seen it against Uzcategui. I even saw it in his last fight against Caleb Truex. You know, maybe those guys you can take a few hits from them and they won't take.
Can't take those shots from Canelo.
But those are not Canelo, and those are also some of your biggest wins. Uzcategui, Truex. Canelo we're not talking about 1 or 2 levels. We're talking about a whole different ball game. And so in addition to, skills, which are important, and Caleb Plant has a ton of them, it's the moment. And you can see that Canelo is a fighter that brings not only his skills to the ring, but he brings the moment. He embraces the moment. And if you have not been there, that can affect you in the ring.
Okay, so let me, I'm going to ask you though, and I guess in this way, because I want to know, in your opinion, what are the, not just in terms of the moment, but how does he match up? Like, well, just matchup wise, skill for skill, we're looking at it. What is your opinion? How does he match up? Not how what does he bring to the table? Like matchup wise, just X's and O's. How do you like this fight?
Okay, so IQ. Just because we've seen it at a higher level with better fighters,
of course,
we're going to give the IQ to Canelo.
Yeah.
Canelo landed that uppercut all night and then finished the fight. It was no lucky punch. IQ. That's gonna go to Canelo. Footwork will go to Caleb Plant. Power will go to Canelo. Defense. Whoo,
might be even. Might be even. Oof.
Plant.
I mean, Canelo's
I say even or Plant. I don't know if I can give that to Canelo. I know Plant is good, but his defense fails him late in fights because he gets tired. And so I think Canelo can hold that defense, at least his head movement throughout the fight. So let's call defense even.
Okay.
Fair. I'll live with that. What else we got? What am I missing?
Speed.
I said speed. Plant. Oh,
okay.
Yeah, I probably get it to Plant.
Yeah, I give it to Plant also. Footwork.
I gave it to Plant.
Plant still. Power we gave to Canelo. All right, that's about it. You really think about it. Fight IQ, defense. Yeah. I mean, on paper, this is a good fight. And that's why I'm excited about it. It really is a good fight. And I've said it before. I think we're both high on Caleb Plant. But one thing is, we're both bigger Canelo fans. But I'll say this: I still think it's a good fight. I think Caleb Plant will make it a good fight. I don't know if he'll win. I don't think he'll win. But I think if anybody can beat him, a style like a Caleb Plant would make life very difficult for Canelo, and I can say that.
Yeah, when they talk about all of these guys, everyone wants to see Canelo fight a Charlo, a Benavidez. I don't think those guys possess guys who are going to stand in front of Canelo. I don't think that bodes well for the other fighter. Someone like a Caleb Plant who's really going to be using his legs throughout the course of the fight. That's a style that could give Canelo issues.
And he has a good jab. And one thing that we saw even in this fight is that Canelo can get cracked from a jab from time to time.
Yeah, definitely can. Size goes to Plant.
Absolutely. So this thing, see, my bad. I'm sitting here all of a sudden, and one of my other windows, I had ESPN open, and for some reason, the sound just clicked on. So I had some dude talking some sports radio shit in my ear, and I was totally confused. So sorry about my little pause I had to take for a second. Well, all right, let me ask you this. Yeah, go ahead.
Can a quick side note?
Of course.
It is totally unrelated.
Yeah, what's up?
I just ain't heard you make no Knicks jokes lately. We doing
Knicks
better.
Knicks are great, man. Knicks are great, man. You guys got my coach,
okay.
bro. You guys got my coach. You guys got Thibodeau over there.
We got the whole team.
You got my whole Bulls team over there, man. I love those guys. No, dude, it's great. I'm happy for the Knicks. Here's the thing. Okay. I think it's one of those things, man. Teams like the Knicks, the Bulls, the Lakers in basketball. I think like in football, the Giants. You know what I'm saying? Those big market. It is. It's just more fun. It's more fun to have those historic teams going out there. And you know what, man? Salute to my Chicago brethren, Derrick Rose, going out there doing work out there in New York. I appreciate him. Dude, balling out there in New York. I appreciate my mans.
They really got to watch his minutes, but and I love that he's not the first option out there because when they give him the ball, he cooks. He cooks.
Oh. I do. I'm a fan. That's my guy, man. Love Derrick Rose. I love me some Thibodeau. Dude, Chicago was sad when Tibbs left. Like, we understand it was time for him to go, and he ran our team. And that's what's going to happen to the Knicks. Y'all going to be great for, you guys got a 5-year run to get this title because he's going to run these dudes into the dirt. But enjoy it. It's going to be fun. Y'all going to have some fun, good, defensively minded teams.
Yeah, I think Tibbs is going to get us to that next level, of contender, but he cannot get us over that hump. I think we might need someone else to do that, and maybe it will be Tibbs, and I'll be wrong. But I mean, it is what it is. Now, have you watched Julius Randle play?
Julius Randle's been cooking.
He's wet. His game is not what a power forward is. He's just wet.
No. Dude, I saw him. Did you see him when he was working on it? He hits it in the game all the time, sitting literally about a step inside the 3-point line. Hits a little body fake, pop over to the top. just drops every time. Dude is clean with it, man.
He might be shooting 40% from three.
Dude is a savage. I'm so happy for that dude. I wish he was still with the Lakers, especially right now playing like he does. But sorry, we got to. We right.
NBA, they giving up on, and I know this is total side note, but I feel like it's very easy in the NBA to give up on players early. Like I feel like people were kind of giving up on it. Lakers let him go. Pelicans let him go. But I think he was starting to get really good when he was with the Pelicans. But also like D'Angelo Russell, like Lakers gave up on his early. Like you just they were both players they were on the Lakers together. Like yeah, and my boy was telling me that that RJ Barrett's kind of trash last night. I was like, he's 20. He is 20.
Straight up. My man can't go to the club yet.
He's 20. Like he's shooting 40% from three. He's averaging 17 points a game. He's 20. And he's playing for Tibbs. Tibbs made Jimmy Butler. Damn near.
1,000%. 1,000%. He said, "You gonna play some defense." It's the thing. You make you play defense. Everything else will come. He literally trains him up like that. I love what I'm seeing over there. And right now, dude, the league is fun. And you know what I really think is hilarious? That the Knicks could fuck around and beat the Nets in the playoffs. I would love that. I would giggle my ass off. I hope it happens.
Yeah, I mean, as long as Kyrie on the floor, it's gonna be a lot to ask. But
I'm just saying.
I think pretty much anyone else in the East, the Sixers look a little bit better this year. But outside of that, like I mean, we could take a lot of them boys. We could take a lot of them boys.
Hey man,
and right now, right now, I don't have to like deflect. Usually, I'm on defense, right? Right now, I'm at the point of I don't have to be on defense. I'm just at the point of being humble. But we start making noise in the playoffs. I'm talking cash shit, nigga. Like cash shit to everybody. I'm coming on the podcast, straight suck my dick. Knicks are good. Like,
hey, you know what, man? Get your shit off.
That was my son,
hey, look, as a Bulls fan for years, and we ain't had a winner in a minute. Best believe when one of my people can have a moment like this, bro. I have genuine just pride for you, man. I'm happy for you.
Lakers hurt me last night, though. I won't lie. That hurt.
And you see, I didn't bring it up.
That hurt.
And you know I'm a Lakers guy. And you see,
I know.
And I low key, I thought I was wearing my Lakers shirt today, and I wasn't even trying to. Look, I'm not straight Chicago with it, but just saying. You see, I didn't even bring it up. Much love, salute to the Knicks, because you know what? I'm happy to see them doing their thing. But let's go ahead and get back into the action. Let me ask you this: last thing about Canelo. In your opinion, what should be his next 3 fights? If it was you managing Canelo's career, what are the next 3 fights for Canelo going to be?
I would do Plants, obviously. Then I would do probably Benavidez. I think Benavidez is the next logical opponent there. I mean, because once if he goes through Plant and then Benavidez, then you just have guys from lower weight classes that are going to be coming up, whether that's going to be Jamal Charlo or Gennady Golovkin, Demetrius Andrade, and even Ryota Murata. All of those guys are eligible opponents. Ryota Murata is apparently a fucking megastar in Japan. And with Canelo's aspirations to be a megastar in the sport, that fight makes a lot of sense for him. Because Ryota Murata, he's a champion. He has a belt. Maybe he doesn't have a name there, but the type of event that can be. And events matter. If you are watching on Saturday, you with 73,000 fans at AT&T Stadium, you understand that events matter. And if you can make that type of event in Japan and further your goals to be an international star, absolutely do it. So I'd say one of those guys at 160, I'm going to throw a name out there. I'll go ahead and say Jamal Charlo because he's just the loudest.
Okay. I love it. Do you think anything that Boo Boo Andre did got him any closer to any big fight?
Yes. Nobody wants to fight Boo Boo Andre, and you can only imagine how many people are following Canelo and watching the Canelo broadcast. They see him with his little goofy shirt. If people won't fight you the conventional way, you really don't have any other options. So any way to get your name, people to mention your name, like people probably never saw Demetrius Andrade fight, but they probably don't like him. because he's fucking with Canelo. So they were like, hey, why doesn't Canelo beat up that Demetrius Andre guy? Even that alone inches Demetrius Andre closer to a bigger fight, because they'll want to say, okay, well, if he wants to fight Canelo, he needs to fight some other guys. His name will come up in the conversation more. He's starting to press the issue. I mean, in that moment, he probably looks stupid, but I think in the grand scheme of things, it does further his cause.
Good business. I'm not mad at it. Good business. You go out there, you insert yourself in there. Unfortunately, sometimes you might end up getting played. It somewhat reminds me of when in MMA, when Ryan Bader wanted to fight Daniel Cormier. And he goes out there and he's trying to call Daniel Cormier out right after Daniel Cormier won the belt. And he looks over there, he says, Daniel Cormier takes the mic and says, I want to fight you next, Bader. He said, I told the UFC is that I want the easiest fight in the division. Give me Ryan fucking Bader.
No.
Very close to that. But instead he said, get the fuck out of here. Fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here.
Demetrius Andre is not 2 levels of Shannon Briggs yet. But,
oh my God.
He's well on his way. I would not.
Let's go, champ.
I would not advise, Shannon Briggs was on some next shit with Klitschko. He was everywhere.
Canelo put hands on him.
I would not suggest that. I would suggest you go to Mexico at all.
Yeah. Well, he live in he don't live in Mexico. He live in San Diego.
He does live in San Diego, but he has that house in Guadalajara. That's the house he gave the tour of. Did you see the shit with the Tesla dancing? First of all, did you see Canelo fucking prancing on the horse? I don't know why this shit was cool, but this nigga just sitting there just prancing on the horse like, yo, look what I can do. He was having so much fun. You just never see Canelo in his element like that. I thought that was real cool.
I'm loving this new Canelo, fam. I really am. Like the shit talk, the thing I put something up on my IG later on this evening, but he was like, there's a clip of him just like, he motherfucking people, all kinds of shit. Like, dude, Canelo is hilarious.
Oh, he's hilarious. I actually had a friend call me. He's Nigerian, real flashy. He's seen the video. He's like, yo, you seen that shit with Canelo and a horse? He was like, yeah, I want a motherfucking horse. Nigga live in Chicago. Like, I don't know.
Sound like some Chicago nigga shit. Yeah, I can see that.
He was like, yeah, I want a horse, G. I was like, oh, okay. He was like, that shit was just fucking cool. I didn't do that shit. All right, sir.
See Canelo in that joint. He was, dude, Canelo. And I don't know if this is controversial. I've said it time and time again. The greatest Mexican fighter of all time. Y'all can keep your Chavezes. Y'all can keep Solis and all the other Pancho Villa, whatever the hell you want to bring up. I don't give a shit. Canelo's the fucking best.
I ain't watched boxing long enough to make that statement, but shit, Canelo, that's my guy. I just can't. If you let us talk about Canelo, we would literally talk about Canelo for the whole podcast.
The entire time.
The way he is carrying the sport and smoking all y'all other niggas in the top in the pound for pound rankings.
He kills all of our arguments. Every argument that I try to make for these other dudes, you ain't going out there. You ain't finishing dudes, right? And it's easy for me to sit there and say, look, it's not your job. You're not going to finish everybody. You're not going to do this. But fucking Canelo's doing this to the top guys in the sport.
Yeah.
At the highest level, just running through them. And dude, the leverage that he puts on these shots, everything he throws, something that Darnell was talking about earlier, and it's just like he does, like it seems like everything he throws is just with a little extra fucking salsa on it.
Mm-hmm. Jabs and hooks. That's all he needs. Jabs, hooks, and uppercuts. Yeah. For me, it's the activity. Like, that's a couple of my biggest gripes with boxing are the amount of activity and the lack of big fights being made. And just Canelo makes everything look so easy.
Dude, we on this podcast are Canelo stans. Like I said, you know how like on the Joe Budden podcast they got the whole Avengers.
Mr. Tavares, can we know who they had as number one?
I would love to know who they had as number one. Please tell us who they had as number one, because like dude, I don't understand. I don't know, how can you hate on Canelo? What is there to hate on? Like, dude, he does everything well.
I had an interaction with a guy on Twitter this week that said that, hey, Crawford is so many levels above Canelo. And hey, if you want to say that, that's fine, but Crawford doesn't get an opportunity to show it. It's not enough activity, not enough big fights, and Canelo is just fucking carrying the sport right now. He is.
And next day, Bud can get in a conversation when he fights somebody I give a shit about. I hate to say it like that, but it's getting to the point, and you and I have discussed this many a time. Yes, he's not getting the fights, but he made the choice to re-sign with Bob Arum in Top Rank. That is nobody's fault but his own. How am I going to sit here and be mad at him not getting the fights with the guys on the other side of the street when you had an opportunity to sign with the guys on the other side of the street? And then all of those fights would have been there. So I don't care.
So let's talk about Canelo's last few fights. He has Daniel Jacobs, Sergey Kovalev, Callum Smith, Billy Joe Saunders, and the fight against Yildirim. That's just in his last 5 fights.
All those dudes except for Yildirim have been champions.
Probably better than the majority of Terrence Crawford's resume. Here's the kicker.
Probably, absolutely.
Here is the kicker. Canelo is younger than Terrence Crawford. He's younger than him.
You know what I'm saying? He's going out there doing it, and he's even gotten to the point that if Terrence Crawford does this also, he has an opportunity. His deal comes to an end at some point, I believe, this year. And if he goes out on his own and he's able to negotiate one-offs like Canelo's been doing, good on him. Because he'll be able to get out of his contract. He'll be able to go out there and say, hey, Al Heyman, let's have a one-off. Hey, fucking Matchroom, let's have a one-off. Hey, he'll be able to do that like Canelo is currently doing right now. Canelo is a free agent once again. And even though he says he wants to go out there and work with Eddie Hearn and those boys over there at Matchroom, he's also saying at this point in time, but we don't know. We don't fucking know. So I love what he's doing. Head and shoulders because of strength of schedule, because of what he's done historically, and because of the fucking eyeball test. I got Canelo as my number 1 pound for pound fighter in the world, boxer in the world today.
And we're Terrence Crawford fans. We only talk shit about
Terrence Crawford
when it comes to pound for pound rankings against
exactly.
Canelo.
That's
it. As far as Eddie Hearn, when you talk about him promoting Canelo, shit, he's done a fucking job though.
He's been killing it.
You see that entrance?
Dude, this man, I was sitting here. Look, I was at a wedding this weekend, so I was definitely watching the fight. Couldn't hear it, but that shit looked live. I was watching this shit on my phone. I was getting my damn joint on.
Have you watched it again?